Ever get distracted by shiny new business ideas? Today, we're talking about staying focused on what actually matters. Hey, I'm Beth Fahey, and you found Bad Boss Confessional. After 3 decades of managing people, I've realized something. The stories we don't want to tell, those are usually the ones worth sharing. This podcast is a judgment free zone where leaders admit what really happened behind closed doors and how those messy moments shaped us. I'd like you to meet Kelly Knight, integrator at EOS Worldwide. She's led our community through tremendous growth and change for the past 9 years. We have a lot to learn from her today. Welcome, Kelly.
Great to be here, Beth. Thanks for the invitation to Bad Boss Confessional. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a great place to just kind of, you know, share your stories, let it all out, just lower the temperature on being a boss because I think so many of us get on our head about it. And so I'm really grateful that you're here today and that you're willing to share a story.
Oh, I've got lots of stories, Beth. We've got lots to choose from.
Yeah, as don't we all, right? Well, let's just kick things off with the story that you thought about for today. I'm just curious, did you have one that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, as I said, I've got so many, ranging from 20 years ago when I first became a boss all the way through till literally today as I'm learning and growing. And as Dan Sullivan says, we're on the learning team or the growing team. I happen to think I'm always doing both. I'm on the learning team as I'm growing. But when you had presented this opportunity to be here today, I thought it's a really great moment to reflect upon really what's happened the last year inside of our EOS Implementer community because it's in the confessional of leading as an integrator that I hope to be inspiration to lots of companies running on EOS, lots of entrepreneurial organizations that everyone goes through some of these really difficult things. And the prevailing theme is around core focus. And at EOS Worldwide, our core focus is helping entrepreneurs live their EOS life. And we do that by developing master EOS implementers. That's our niche. That's where we shine and what we're really good at and what we've done for 20 years. That's how we've grown. And so it was a year ago, Beth. The story is a year ago, I'm on vacation with my family decompressing, getting some good R&R, having a clarity break, if you will. And I'm sitting at this pool. It's beautiful. And I'm reading a book. It doesn't really matter what the book is, but the book really, what I was reading made me reflect and think almost like a lightning bolt. Oh my gosh, we've gotten this terribly wrong. And I'm the integrator. I'm responsible for it. And so I text my business partner, Mark O'Donnell, and I say, Mark, when I get back, we have to change everything. And the reflection was multifold because while you asked me for one story, I feel like I'm putting together a combination of stories that is about losing our focus, about losing our way on our core focus. It's on our VTO, it's our 2-page business plan. That's our North Star. So when I realized that we've gone so far off track from that, it's like a punch to the gut. Um, but that's the defining moments that we have as leaders and as managers. And so anyway, so we come back from Italy, come back home, and we really began to reflect and become aware of all the places that we had broken down, getting away from that core focus. And Mark and myself, we're very creative. We find ways to believe that something is attached to our core focus and that it's actually going to help us. One example, and I'm going to go through a number of things that led us astray. We made a decision that we were going to, 3 years prior, build pure EOS software. That was close enough to serving and supporting helping entrepreneurs live their EOS life because who better to build pure, simple software than EOS Worldwide? Who knows better than us about pure tools, process, model? Who knows better? But that's really born out of hubris because we're not a technology company, we're a training company. And so we had tried to make it work a number of different ways. We had built software outsourced. We had brought in the best of the best to build it inside of EOS. And the reality is that I'm not an integrator that has the DNA to lead and manage that well. So it says nothing about the people who are building the software. It says more about it's not what we do well. It's not what we're engineered to be. It's not how we serve the world is through software. We serve the world through our EOS implementers who are masterful and deliver pure value, real results to companies running on EOS. And we have great content, and that content helps companies, whether you're self-implementing or working with an implementer, to improve your business, to get what you want out of your business. It's not through software. So part of that reflection coming off of this vacation was we cannot continue to do this anymore. There's no combination of who's people, process, data that is going to make this right other than to get rid of it and have someone else do it who is naturally wired and engineered, and their core focus is software. And so that was one of the realizations. The other realization is how far we had strayed in terms of other things that we were doing, lots of different workshops and how we marketed ourselves to the world, and how by doing more of things, XM radio and this and that, and all these other different marketing strategies had actually taken us off course and confused the marketplace. Not intentional. We weren't meaning to. We were meaning to take all of these different product portfolio of things that we offer at EOS and make them more accessible and make people more aware of them. And the way to do that is through marketing. And so what happened is we were out on social media and all these different channels, and we're creating so much noise. It actually ironically detracts from what we say we are, which is a simple system. And that was causing confusion and problems for implementers, because when implementers come into a session room, they're having to address all of the marketplace confusion that their clients are telling them that they're experiencing. And what about this product and this offering? And should I be doing this? And so it actually just was a swirl of issues, a cascading negative impact of trying to do the right thing, but having strayed too far from our core focus.
I've lived a similar story. I mean, not to the magnitude that you have at EOS Worldwide, but I had a small bakery business. I added a cafe to it. Seemed like a great idea. Everybody on paper was great, but in reality, I ended up working 80 to 100 hours a week. It was, really straining all the relationships, and it wasn't profitable. It wasn't a moneymaker. And this is something that I see clients experience over and over again. They get very excited and can convince themselves that, how hard can it be, right? We can figure this out. It's close enough to what we're currently doing. And then you get in it and you find out that, hey, it's really actually not. And I will tell you that the bakery business and running a restaurant and cafe, while both in the world of food, not the same and totally different. So, I mean, I really relate to your story, but this led me to a question that I wanted to ask, because one of the things that I experienced was the embarrassment of saying, we screwed up. We thought we should have done this, and we realized way too far in, for us, it was 3 years, way too far in, that this was a bad move. And it's the winding back of all of that. And so I'm wondering if you could talk, you're sort of talking a little bit about that, but that's what I think prevents people from doing the right thing.
I can see how that can be. And certainly, in that moment when it was this like crescendo of all of these things that I was recognizing that I, as the integrator, had done in ways that were destructive, it's actually the fuel that makes me want to overcome that, because the negative impact, the destructive nature of what that does for our implementer community and companies running on EOS weighs heavier on me than the embarrassment of admitting what had happened. And in the People book written by Mark O'Donnell, CJ Dubay, and myself, I want to take out one little piece of that because I think this can be helpful for as a teaching tool for other companies running on EOS is what is even the definition of greater good? We toss that around a lot, the greater good of the organization, the greater good of an individual. Greater good is purely defined as every word of the VTO, to include our core focus, multiplied by genuine care and concern, otherwise known as love, putting the love into the work. And it's a multiplier formula because the first part, the VTO, is our focusing mechanism. That's the lens at which we look at the business. And so that's our navigation. That's our North Star. We have to honor that. And we have to do the right thing by people. It's also part of our core values. So as we were reflecting, as I was reflecting, I thought, there's no way I can't move forward. There's nothing that matters more to me than finding the path forward for us as a community. And also something unique about EOS Worldwide is that our community is everything. The only way we've weathered storms all of these years, to include the 9 years I've been here, is our community. And so it's coming together and being able to admit when we've made mistakes. And fortunately, I'm so grateful because our community, to include you, Beth, as an EOS implementer, are very gracious. And so, I mean, I could have sat in the embarrassment, but instead, I really tried to focus on just what is the right thing to do. How do we communicate it open, honest, and vulnerable, and move our way through it so that we can actually get to a better place. And it takes a while. It takes a while. We had to restructure the organization. We had business units. We sold off EOS 1. We disconnected some connective tissue. We really got back to what we do at its essence at a core. Almost 12 months later, I hope our community feels it. I think they do. I just came off of 3 QCEs in Detroit, and so I was able to listen to half of our community. I know I feel better. I hope our community feels better. I hope the clients too, and clients of EOS implementers and those running on EOS are also feeling the reduction of the angst of all of the marketplace confusion. And also EOS 1, we did divest of it, we sold it, and it's in the hands of an AI expert for which this is what he does. He's already improved the product like 500% since June 1st. And so the good news is that that's, in the best hands that it possibly can. And that's his core focus. That's why he's good at it. And that's why we shouldn't do it. And we're going to stick to what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, in looking back at my own story, the motivator for me too was the people, was that we were just running ourselves ragged, and we were running on EOS, by the way. So, I mean, it's not like we didn't know what a core focus was, and we were just sort of ignorant to that. No, we knew, but we just adjusted ours to accommodate. And I think, just seeing where people's energy goes and really taking a big step back. And sometimes it does take, a vacation or getting away from it. And, because when you're in it, right? This is what we see all the time with our entrepreneurial companies, is that people are so up to their eyeballs in the day to day and fighting fires. And they think, well, this pivot, this is going to help us. This is how we're going to get to the next place. But it ends up just being a distraction. And you can convince yourself of a lot of things, right? You're really good at sales and marketing when you've started a business, and you can sell yourself on a lot of stuff. So I think it's really, I admire your courageousness in sharing the story, because having been a person sort of watching it from the sidelines and watching everything happen, I have to say, what you're experiencing at your recent QCE, as somebody on the other side of that, is that, yeah, I think there is relief in the community, that we're trying to focus back to the basics. And with 900 implementers, it's hard, because now you've got 900 visionary-ish sort of entrepreneurial people who have lots of ideas and lots of things that they want to explore. And so it must be very difficult to stay focused with all of that going on.
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's the interesting part is we do literally have 900 visionary idea born people within inside of our community who are teaching other organizations how to run on EOS. But what I'm grateful for is that these same implementers hold us accountable and are open and honest with us. We can only do better when we know better. That's something that I tell our team all the time. When we know better, we can do better. To a certain degree, it's an awareness. Sometimes we can't see it. To your point, we're mired in the work and we have to rise above that work. And sometimes it is a vacation, or it might be someone who cares enough to make the phone call to say, Kelly, I got to tell you, somebody's got to tell you because I don't think you're seeing it. And that's also those clarity moments when that's the really trusted foundational relationship that we have with our implementer community. And I'm so grateful for that. That's that like the Lunchomi pyramid. The foundation is trust. And so whether it's your own internal team or it's your clients or it's your family, we can only get through the really tough stuff by having that ability to be completely open, honest, and vulnerable. And that's what we teach at EOS. It's simple, but it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. The thing is I think if you demonstrate vulnerability, which is kind of the point of this podcast, right? Is that we want people to feel comfortable sort of dropping the armor and just saying this is what happened. And clearly you and Mark have done that repeatedly throughout the last several years, which when that's done, people are on your side. It's when we pretend that we've got it all together, we've got it all figured out, just follow me, I know where we're going, and, just that's when you lose people. And I think that one of the things that real leaders do is say, "Hey, I don't have this all figured out. We made a mistake, and I'm asking you to trust us that we're going to figure it out and make it better." And that's really the lesson I think that I'm taking from your experience is that how it doesn't matter how big the organization is. It doesn't, you can be a mom and pop, lawn care company, or you can be a multi-million dollar organization. It's demonstrating that vulnerability. That's important, right?
That's right. And no one has it figured out all of the time. Said no visionary integrator ever, I hope that I have it all figured out. It's a continuum of learning. And so while there are moments when we feel like I really have command of the business, I understand it really, really well, I know what to do, there's far more moments that we're not 100% sure. We don't have all of the data. We have incomplete information. We don't know all the perspectives of all of the stakeholders all of the time. And that's because nothing remains static. Everything is dynamic over time. And that's one of the greatest lessons I think that we can all take in life is that the world is constantly changing. We have to be able to respond to what we know at the time and welcome that feedback so that we can become our best. The second we shut down and we're not receptive, we're not open, we're not authentic, we're not approachable anymore, it's the beginning to the end. And so my endeavor is to show my flaws, to show where I haven't been the best leader I could have been, but to recover and come back from that and continue to build on what I'm capable of doing, just as every leader does. And that's the lesson.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. And as you're moving forward, sometimes I'll speak for myself here, when I've made mistakes in the past, it becomes the thing, right? That I don't want to repeat. So I mean, this is kind of a toss-off one, buttermilk pie, right? This was something that I was like convinced, oh, we're going to sell so many of these, and my sister and everybody else told me, no, Beth, that nobody's interested. That's a down south thing. Nobody cares anywhere else about buttermilk pie. I'm like, yeah, but it's so good. It's like creme brulee. It's like all these things. And I couldn't be convinced. I couldn't be convinced. Um, and that wasn't the first time that happened. I had many, many other things where I get caught up in falling in love with my ideas. And so now, though, I have to say, I take a little bit more time, or I run it past somebody else, or I, the joke is I go lay down and take a nap. And if I get up and still think it's a great idea, then maybe I do it. But like Are you concerned that this may happen again? Like, are you a little gun shy moving forward? Or do you feel that you have mechanisms in place? I mean, obviously you're running on EOS, but what about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always have productive paranoia at play. So that's just kind of fuels me a little bit. But yes, I mean, it's in the decompression of looking backwards that we compile lessons learned, and then we use the EOS model to help us sharpen what we're doing. So, as an example, we had to change a bunch of technology and things that were duplicated or unnecessary, or we had too many users on it. And that was part of this process of going back to the basics and coming back to the core and what's essential, what do we really need. And so, what we did is we put in place processes and cross checks that had not previously been in place so that we could prevent that through process, right? We're deepening that process component and getting that followed by all. And so it is reflection, lessons learned. Now, where does it fit in the 6 key components? And how do we create those mechanisms to prevent some of what we have where we've gone astray? And then part of it is, now this has always been true, but I think some of the lessons learned from the past year have sharpened my ability to think more clearly about it. Clear thinking is, I keep our VTO right with me every single day. Now, I know what's on here. Okay, I don't actually have to have it printed, but there's something about having the VTO printed in color in front of me all the time. And when I'm getting stuck, I reread it. I take 2 minutes to reread the vision side and make sure, is this decision really in alignment with our VTO? Another way to hold myself more highly accountable. And I actually share this with our whole team at EOS Worldwide, is you really should have this. I don't care that you got the digital version. I don't care that it shows up in the software. I want you to have it by you. So it's really foundational about using the tools, the answers in the tools, as Uncle Walt, one of our EOS implementers, would say. So, Beth, you can never know for sure you're not going to we're all going to make mistakes in the future. I hope to not repeat the same mistakes. But I really do look to use EOS as this human energy system to improve how we do things forward moving, continue learning and iterating and sharpening, and getting more rigorous with how we do things too. So, what gets measured gets done is something we say. Trust but verify. What you tolerate, you endorse. These are things that I think really a lot more critically about now. And it's one of the, sometimes it's a little bit of sorry, not sorry, but we were going to verify down until I can see that it's actually going to work well. Not micromanaging, but it's just more of that. Again, what you tolerate, you endorse, and trust and verify. So there are certainly things that you have. I think every leader, manager who tries to be thoughtful about it, that impresses upon you how you do things differently and better forward moving. But I'll make mistakes. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. Hopefully, again, I don't know what that mistake is going to be tomorrow, but it serves as fuel for learning.
Yeah, and I think that, we get better as we go, and the mistakes are going to happen. And just knowing that it's okay, we're all human. We all have those moments that are human. Thinking back, like, to the leadership team and, with the whole restructure that you were talking about earlier, that had to have been very difficult as well.
Well, it certainly was. I mean, this was all culminating again at the same time, all of these different realizations. And one of those was that the structure was just not right for where we were. And we had to create greater transparency within the structure to be able to get to the business units and see things clearly. But in the reflection that I had when I was on vacation, it struck me that the oversight I'd had an intuition, a spidey sense about things, that I had a leader who had a vision inside our vision, meaning that that leader's vision varied from what Mark and I would say at a state of the company, what we would espouse about our VTO. And it was showing itself up in different ways. The inconsistency of how something was being done or marketed or executed to varied from what we actually have on our VTO. And what happens is any leader of any function, doesn't matter which one, your people are watching. They're watching what you're doing. They're going to emulate what you do because we're the beacon. And so we ended up with a team inside of a team that was following a vision within a vision, if that makes sense.
It does.
And it was a significant amount of people within inside all of EOS worldwide. And then what you have are pockets of other team members who are running alongside the VTO as they're hearing it and understanding it, which is counter and it has cross-functional friction to the other team that's running on an alternative vision. And we can't have that. So when we look at the human energy model, for those that might be familiar with that, that's where, on one hand, if you don't have everybody with a shared vision, shared core values, you've got arrows pointing in all different directions. It's chaotic. That doesn't work for a company to achieve results. That doesn't work for a company to achieve the vision long term. Our core target is dependent upon having all arrows pointed in a singular direction. And so, in order to achieve that, that's where we made the really hard decision September 29th of last year to let go of 38 people all at one time. And certainly never the thing that anybody wants to have to do. We know that the impact that has on everyone's lives. I don't take that decision lightly at all. Heartbreaking to do that, and heartbreaking, I'm sure, for those being directly impacted. And yet, that definition of greater good that I described to you earlier, Beth, and for the audience, that has to prevail. It has to. And so that's what we did. And so we cut back to exactly what we need to do with our structure and made those accountability chart changes. We cut out the part of the business with software that wasn't tied to our core focus. And we got back to what we do, which is to be an implementer business. We are serving implementers, finding 20 clients in their own backyard on a journey to mastery, helping their clients to achieve vision, traction, and healthy. That's what we do.
And so looking back a year later, are you relieved?
Yes. I mean, again, it doesn't come with, the pain of having made those decisions and how it's impact. But yes, the relief is there because when you honor at its core, one of the fundamental reasons why I think I'm here is to do the 3 Ps. Yes, I'm an integrator and I have roles inside of my seat. It starts with LMA and all of those things. All of that's true. But at the end of the day, for EOS Worldwide, I do the 3 Ps. That's to protect, preserve, and perpetuate everything that's made EOS good and holy in the world. And that's fundamentally goes back to where we started with Gina Wickman and Don Tinney way back in the day. It's still evergreen. It's still true. It still holds up in the world what EOS was then, what it is now. And I'd like to think EOS, as it is today, will last for 100 more years. I'm building a 100-year company. So the relief is to get back to what we all do best and to let others go do what they do best in their unique ability, wherever else that works for them. And so the relief is there for sure.
What advice would you give to an entrepreneur that's listening to this podcast that's facing some structural changes in their organization? Maybe they've just started EOS and they realize, hey, we need a whole revenue engine that never existed, or maybe, we need to cut or add. How would they go about doing that from an integrator's perspective?
Well, I've worked with 11 visionaries to date. And I love my visionaries. They are amazing. And so I would ask the founder visionary to take a real clarity break. And I'm not talking about a 20-minute clarity break. I don't know, for as long as it might take you. Maybe it's even going away and thinking about it, or a day, whatever is required, but to really digest your VTO, to internalize it and think about what is the structure that's best going to support who we serve, who we are, where we're going to get where we're going with our marketing strategy. What's the 3-year picture? To think about all those questions that we ask when we put together the VTO, and to be honest, be candid about it, don't trick yourself into believing things that aren't true. And that's just pressure testing that VTO. That's what I would suggest. And once you do that, then the right structure is going to come to you. But if you don't really internalize that and own it, then you're going to end up with a structure that's not going to support what you need. It also may mean you need to change your VTO. I'm not an implementer. I don't do what you do, Beth, in a session room, but it's being as candid as you are about who you are and where you want to go, and then the structure to support it. So little side notes, what we ended up doing is temporarily for a couple quarters, we broke out into business units so that we could get clarity and transparency around how each thing was operating within the business. How's the implementer business performing? How is the software business performing? How is the events business performing? How is shared services working to support the organization? We had to do that to get clear from a financial standpoint, but also from how are things working from a people and process and issue solving perspective. And then it's a little bit like putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. Once we get clear on that, then we had divested of EOS 1, we made the accountability chart changes, then we put everything back together as one. So my encouragement for some entrepreneurs is don't be afraid to do some things from a structural perspective, relatively short term, in order to get the clarity and the transparency that you need, and then make subsequent changes later to get it where you need it for the rightful long term, the next 12 to 18 months thereafter.
Yeah, as Gino says, the root of all good and evil is in the accountability chart. So, I mean, making those changes is sometimes incredibly difficult because people have been with you for a long time. You love them. But it's really thinking about the greater good of the organization and having the alignment. So, Marissa Smith and I have been working on the book on rollout, which will be out next year. We hope sometime. We're really hoping for that to launch soon. And one of the things that we've been covering in the book is, as we're talking about rollout, is how critical it is for the leadership team to be in complete alignment before rolling this out to the organization. And sometimes that means you have to go slow to go fast, as we say. And you've usually got somebody who's really, got a high quick start, wants to get this thing going, get it rolled out. But it's so important to wait to make sure that the leadership team is completely aligned. And so your story shares about how that alignment got a little bit off track. But by going back and really pressure testing and asking the questions and really, taking clarity breaks, it sounds like it really got you all to be thinking about what's best for the organization. And that's really admirable. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I can't wait for your rollout book.
yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to help a lot of people. We're in test readers right now, and I think it's going to be helpful for the EOS community, for implementers. It's just an area that has maybe not has had as much clarity for some people. So, without giving a prescription for how to do it necessarily, but giving a lot of guidelines that help a little bit more. That's why it should be helpful.
I agree. It's a long time in the making to have had a book like this. So I'm grateful that you and Marissa have invested of yourselves and your talent and time to write it. It will be really helpful it'll be helpful for me too, I'm sure, and our team. So I look forward to reading it as well.
Yeah, I think I mean, that's really what it's about, So like any entrepreneur, Marissa and I are entrepreneurial, and you look for gaps, right? So where are the gaps? Where could we, help? And so that's really what led us to that. So I feel really good about it. Plus, she's an amazing partner to work with, and it's been really fun to get to know her and become better friends through the process. I've been very lucky in my collaborations, along the way. So it's been great. More from Kelly Knight after a word from our sponsors. Let's be honest, hiring the right people is hard. That's why I love Titus Talent Strategies. Their whole person hiring approach helps you find and keep A players who align with your values, and they back it with an industry leading guarantee. Best part? Titus Talent Strategies is included in the Entrepreneurial Toolkit for companies running on EOS. Check them out at titustalent.com/EOS. Do you love running on EOS? Try Streti, the EOS platform people love. Native integrations and extra features help you manage people, projects, process, and engagement. Connected to your favorite EOS tools and all in one place. You love EOS. It's time to love the platform you're running it on. Try Streti free at streti.com. That's STRETY.com. Streti, the EOS platform people love. And now back to my conversation with Kelly. All right, so I ask all of my guests a question on this podcast. And the question is, if you were to get a tattoo somewhere on your body that would remind you of the thing that you need to learn over and over again or be reminded of so that you kind of keep your arrows straight, I guess. um, where would that tattoo be and what would it be?
That's a really good question. I didn't know that's what you had asked others. Well, you know, you teach what you need most. Okay. That's something we talk about in EOS. And because I had originally, when I was first a manager, been that ruinous empathy, afraid to say something that would hurt someone's feelings, but then wasn't able to actually deliver the feedback that was needed. And so I would say that to remind myself of where I've come from when I was first a manager and then all the things that I've done since then and where I am today, I would choose a heart because the root word of courage is heart. And so I feel like those two words come together. So I would choose a heart and I'd probably place it on my wrist on my right hand because I'm right-handed and I would see it every day. And that's also where I have my cross, where I have a little tattoo here. And that's also a reminder of something that matters to me. So maybe I would add a heart right there to remind me. And it's also part of people first. So vision is great. We definitely need our vision, but vision is not enough. And we can't get where we want to go without people. And so, how do we love on our people and get that right? It's from the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's people, right?
It's true. No matter what industry you're in, even if it's technology, you still have people at the helm, people working. It's still a people business.
Well, I've really appreciated our conversation today. And thank you so much for sharing that difficult transition that wasn't easy for you, for probably, you know, our entire company, felt that and sharing that from the heart and what you, how thoughtful you were explaining how all of that happened was really encouraging to me. And I hope many of our listeners.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Beth. I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to maybe another Bad Boss Confessional podcast another time because there's always more to give.
There's always more stories. Absolutely. It never ends. All right, Kelly. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks to Kelly Knight for showing courage in sharing her story about drifting from EOS Worldwide's core focus. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with friends who need to hear this. Thanks for listening to Bad Boss Confessional. We'll see you next week.